Hello everyone, my name is Nathan Mascarenas and I work at Nikon Precision Incorporated. And as a young professional and a recent college graduate, I've had a strong affinity for two topics. The first is workforce development, and the second is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And this affinity runs so deep that I've worked very closely with SEMI. SEMI is a non-profit organization renowned globally for their work in the chip industry. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to bolster our future. Project Circuit Breaker is the confluence where workforce development meets diversity, equity, and inclusion. With that, let's begin. In 2024, I was grateful to have been invited to speak at Semicon West, which, for those of you who don't know, is North America's premier trade show for anything and everything semiconductor related. During the show, I stumbled upon a presentation by the students of Purdue STARS program. And what the STARS program is it's an 8-week course where each and every one of these students develop deep technical skills in semiconductors. So these students, they have a itty bitty fab where they put on an itty bitty bunny suit and they perform itty bitty. I'm only kidding. These students have an actual life-sized fab where they perform real-world experiments either within chip design, semiconductor manufacturing, or advanced packaging. Now, there were 6 students on stage that day, and each one of them was recounting their experience within the STARS program. I remember the first, the second, the third, and the fourth all spoke of the chip design track. And it was only the 5th and the 6th student that spoke about either manufacturing or advanced packaging. Now, I was so enthralled by these students that I went up to them after their presentation and I spoke to them, and I found out that 70% of their class focuses on chip design, and the rest, the 30%, either focus on manufacturing or advanced packaging. Now, I do believe that Purdue STARS program is a step in the right direction. However, I couldn't help but scratch my head thinking that it might not quite represent the market. Let's look at the market. Theoretically, we can design chips under 1 nanometers in size. We've reached what we call the Armstrong era. However, our most sophisticated high volume manufacturing process, and mind you, this is across the globe, it taps out at 2 nanometers. Heck, if we look locally here in Arizona, Intel's high volume manufacturing facility as of early 2025 is rated for 10 nanometer production. Thus, it is evident that chip manufacturing lags behind chip design. Looking at the job market, although we are seeing a current slump in the chip industry, it is worth noting that our industry is notoriously cyclical. That said, Oxford Economics, which is an advisory firm, projects 67,000 new jobs will risk going unfilled by 2030. And a majority of these jobs are going to be engineers and technicians required in the sphere of chip manufacturing. Looking at things more locally, we see the 2 biggest players in the semiconductor industry in Arizona, Intel and TSMC. They both focus their operations on high volume manufacturing. So I'm afraid that Arizona will bear the brunt of Oxford Economics' bleak projections. So you're probably thinking, why not hire from the usual suspects? Accredited universities like ASU, U of A, GCU. Now, students from these universities, students like myself, as a matter of fact, we were curated courses that focus heavily on design. They focus heavily on theory, very similar to the students of Purdue STARS program. I remember spending sleepless nights at ASU's Noble Library studying the principles of mechanical design. Thank you, Starbucks, because that's what kept me through the night. But those principles of mechanical design, that was something I didn't quite use when I got into the field. And I understand that there are more people who feel the same way. What they studied might not have been applicable in the field, in their day-to-day job. Keeping that in mind, according to McKinsey & Company, a consulting firm, 53% of employees in advanced electronics and semiconductors are at least somewhat likely to leave their current job in the next 3 to 6 months. It is important to note that this study was performed in 2023, so it is a little stale, so to speak, although I believe its meaning still rings true. Now, I've seen talent flow through the university pipeline, make its way into the semiconductor industry. Some stay, but many flutter away. And some of the reasons they flutter away might be because of lack of career development or lack of meaningful work. Therefore, we can say that there is a gap between the supply of high-skilled professionals in the chip industry and the demand of high-skilled professionals in the chip industry. So what next? We plan on bridging the gap by tapping into talent from marginalized or underrepresented communities. Communities that might not have had the privilege to go to those accredited universities we spoke of. Communities that have proved to be very successful in the past. A success story that first comes to mind is that of my coworker John. John, wicked mountain biker, X Game enthusiast, Olympic gold medal winner. Okay, John is my coworker, but I did over embellish that. He's neither a X Game enthusiast nor a Olympic gold medal winner. And for the sake of privacy, his name's not really John. That being said, he is a prime example of such talent. He hails from a small city in Arizona, Casa Grande, where he comes from an underrepresented community. In his tenure at Nikon, he has become the subject matter expert on anything lithography related. And the reason I believe he has been so successful may stem from his socio-economic background. Individuals from lower socio-economic communities tend to have two very important traits that are relevant to the chip industry. The first is resilience, the ability to recover from or adjust to stress, change, or misfortune. Some of our tasks can be quite physically and mentally demanding, thus having such a trait really comes in handy. Another trait that is very important in our industry is resourcefulness, the ability to find quick and clever ways to overcome difficulties. When we need to bring a machine up to production from a down state, when we have limited time and limited resources on our hand, then thinking on our feet is a must. So John shows both resilience and resourcefulness in spades. So now we kind of understand that the name of the game is to make the semiconductor industry more palatable, more approachable to individuals from marginalized communities. So the next thing you're probably thinking of is, how do we do this? I've had the privilege of working very closely with Semi Foundation, and one of Semi Foundation's endeavors that they spearheaded a few years ago is called Semi Stories. And what semi-stories are compelling 5-minute videos from industry professionals where they recount what they do within their roles in our industry. Now, each and every one of these videos is phenomenal. They're fantastic, hands down. The only challenge that these videos face is it's difficult for it to reach the target audience, like students, like young professionals. It might be because young professionals like myself or students might be too busy watching Australian breakdancer Ray Gunn hippity hop like a kangaroo on the Olympic stage. Thus, it's difficult for it to reach us. So what do we do about it? I'm happy to announce that as of January 2025, we have added a new chapter into Semi Foundation's Workforce Development Playbook. We call it Tech Tales of the Valley, where young professionals like Samantha from DSV, like Dragon from Move, like Kate from Centrotherm, and like myself from Nikon, we go to underprivileged schools, Title I schools, and we share our day in the life. We present our stories to the students in an interactive format, engaging them and invigorating those students to find out more about what we do in our industry. Let's dive into how Tech Tales of the Valley might benefit its stakeholders. Let's start with private organizations. Tech Tales of the Valley aligns with DEI initiatives. It also serves as a cost-effective brand recognition program. For SEMI, it is a cost-effective, high-impact workforce development program, and also it really does well to integrate with SEMI stories. For spokespeople, it can serve as a means to give back to the community, as well as it creates a platform where one can boost their professional image. For schools, it's a cost-effective, high-impact workforce development program, as well as it fulfills the public speaking requirements that certain schools tend to have. And lastly, for the government, it spreads awareness of the semiconductor industry, as well as it expands opportunities for underrepresented communities. So I'd like to end by saying that stories are the fabric of mankind. They're very entrancing, very uplifting, very demure. The silk strings of a story connects us all through emotion and through senses. They can wage wars, they can move mountains. Stories of my grandfather as an aeronautical engineer paved the path of my engineering career today. And now it's time we pay the gift of a story forward. Thank you.